Style for Life. I'm Stephanie Rumble, fashion stylist, accountability coach, and your guide to feeling good in your body and your clothes. Based in Christchurch, New Zealand, I bring over 3 decades of experience in fashion, fitness, and wellness to help you feel strong, stylish, and self-assured. Together we'll explore the emotional, physical, and practical sides of style, because true confidence starts from within. No matter your age or size, you deserve to feel confident and show up as the best version of you. I truly believe this. This is Style for Life. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the podcast today. It's really great to be here this week. I am very excited to be talking about the topic I'm talking about today, and I also want to thank you for your feedback on print. It's really interesting how many of you like print and how many of you don't, and how many of you want to wear it and how many of you feel really unsure about it. So we're going to move the focus a little bit today away from fashion and talk about another topic which is very dear to my heart, and something which I know many of you who listen will be going through, or if you haven't been through it, you will go through it in the future. And if you have no children, you will know someone who's been through it, and your parents will have been through it. So today I'm going to talk about empty nest syndrome. And empty nest syndrome is when your children leave home, when they grow up, and you have no one left at home. So it's defined as the pressures the parents feel when their children move out, and it's like the emotional strain of empty nest syndrome. It involves feelings of sadness. You can feel like you've lost your identity. You can feel lonely. You can also feel anxious over your child's well-being and independence. You can feel a loss of control. You can feel regret or guilt about your parenting, and you might face practical pressures like financial changes. But the emotional and psychological impacts are the most significant. And I have to say, I probably have felt all of the things that were listed in that list. And so it's really an interesting topic. Just to give you some context for those of you who may be tuning in for the first time, I have 4 children, and my husband and I, David, have 4 children. They are currently aged between 20 and 25. Two guys, 2 men, I have to say now, or boys, who are 25 and 24, and then 2 daughters. We have 2 daughters as well, and they are aged at the moment 21 and 20, but soon to be 22 and 20. So they're very close in age, and it was such a ride having them. Like, we loved it. David and I loved having them. They came really quickly and earlier in our lives than we planned. We had not anticipated having our children in our 20s, but that's the hand that fate dealt us, and now I have no regrets. So it was very busy, and it was an immersive 20 years. Their needs, wants, and life filled our life to brimming, and it was very fulfilling for both of us. And we still feel really close to them and really, really miss them. So the context is that our sons, Zach and Bryn, they moved out at the same time. So Zach lived here in Christchurch for a while. He's the oldest, and because he was a professional rower, or trying to be at the time when he moved out, he stayed in Christchurch because they had a good rowing program. He went to university here for a bit. He had a gap year first, then went to university. So he was here. He moved in and out of flats in Christchurch, but it's not the same when your children live in the same city. It's just like they're around the corner, and it's actually great. But he did that for a while, and then his brother Bryn finished school, and he decided he wanted to move out and go to Dunedin. So Zach actually went at the same time. He came and went from home. He lived in flats and came and went from home, but then decided he wanted to move out to Dunedin too. So I remember both the boys going at the same time and feeling this huge sense of loss. They were going to Dunedin now. Goodness me, Dunedin's close compared to where they all are now. So if you're in another part of the world, New Zealand's in 2 islands, and we live in the South Island, the middle of the South Island. Dunedin is at the bottom of the South Island, or towards the bottom. And currently all of our 4 children now live in the North Island. So to see them as a plane ride away, and a considerable expense. So they lived in Dunedin for a while. Bryn did all his first 3 years of university in Dunedin. and then he met a lovely woman, and he decided also that he wanted to move to Auckland because there was going to be more happening. So he did that maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. And Zach, at about the same time, moved to Cambridge, just outside of Hamilton, where he is now a professional athlete. So the boys moved, then Scarlett and Poppy were still at home. Scarlett was at school, and at the end of school she was absolutely adamant that she was going to Wellington to study. We have whānau there, and she also had a lot of friends going to Wellington, so decided that Wellington was the place for her. So that's where she went and has been ever since. So Scarlett's in Wellington. She doesn't come back very much. She has connections there and enjoys her life there. And then Poppy, our youngest, was at home with us for 2 years. She loved those 2 years at home with just us. She tells me she would have loved to have been an only child, and she very much enjoyed that time with us, and so did we. And then she decided to study architecture, and she needed to go to Wellington or Auckland to do that, and got into the exclusive program in Auckland. So she's there. So currently we have a very empty nest, and have had for maybe just nearing 2 years, which still feels really empty. 20 years of having our children there, and then now 2 years not. So the context is that David and I were married in 1996, and then Zach was born in 2000. So it was really only 4 years after we were married, and in that time I'd had a pregnancy prior to Zach, which it hadn't gone to term. So there hadn't been a lot of time for us since we got married until we had Zach. And again, I was 27 when I gave birth to Zach, and 31 when I gave birth to Poppy. So 31 or 32, I think, maybe 31. So yeah, maybe I was just 32, but I was quite young. So we had children quite close together and quite young. And so we hadn't had a lot of time in our relationship before we had children outside of living. We hardly ever lived together. So we were a bit old fashioned. We didn't live together before we got married. And it was really just circumstance more than anything else, because I was living in Dunedin for the last year of our relationship before marriage, and Dave was living in Wellington because we had been in student flats. And so he moved to Wellington, and then I was still in Dunedin. I finished my master's, and then he was doing his first internship here at the hospital in Wellington. So that's the reason why. It was really just that. And then we got together and spent a couple of weeks living together, and then got married. So we hadn't had a lot of time. We lived together, married for about 1.5 years. Then we went to London and lived in flats with other people. And then we came back with a baby on board. So, an interesting dynamic around us, which I'll explain and talk about a wee bit more through the podcast today, because I think it relates to all of this. And it's definitely been much, much harder than I thought it would be. I just have loved having my kids around. And when I was researching this podcast this morning, I read an article about a man in the UK. He was a journalist, and he was just writing about empty nest syndrome, and he had 2 children, 25 and 27, and he said that he never wants them to leave home. And I understand that. I would love it if one of my kids lived at home again. I'm not sure my husband would, but David would, but I personally love the energy, their friends, their youth, all of that. I really like it. Anyway, so that's our journey. The Poppy moved out 2 years ago and went to Auckland. She comes home for the university holidays. She will come home this year a lot later than we expected, because she has work in Auckland and she also has friends there. And she I think next year she will stay in Auckland through the summer, which will be she's finding the pull between Auckland and Christchurch really difficult. So she wants to stay there through the summer, I think, so she's not having to lug suitcases up and down the country. It's a big job getting home for the summer when you've been away for the whole year. So anyway, we're looking forward to her coming home at the beginning of December, and she'll be home till the beginning of March, which is really good. We're really excited about that, but I think it will be the last time as well. So let's have a talk. I'm going to talk to you about 8 pressures that come with children moving out, and then 8 positives, trying to sort of focus on both. But I think the first is there's an identity crisis for parents. I'm just going to start on the challenges. We won't call them needs, we'll call them challenges. The challenges you experience when your children move out. So the first is you have dedicated a significant part of your identity to raising children, and your shift can feel like a loss of purpose. So I know that some people, particularly if one of you has given up your work or you've worked part-time, and then you know your child leaves home and you know that there's nothing in that void. Like, I can remember the extreme busyness of having all of the children doing all the extracurricular activities, for example, and then each one stopped. I had a wee bit more time, and Poppy, her last extracurricular activity to stop was rhythmic gymnastics. She competed up to quite a high level, and it was so busy. We were away all the time. We were scheduling it. I was friends with people who are in the rhythmic gymnastics community who I don't necessarily see so much anymore. So, you form those friendships around your children, that the commonality is your children. So, and their sport, and you do definitely meet some amazing people along the way. So the first one's an identity crisis. So you've absolutely dedicated a significant part of your identity to your children, and it feels like a loss of purpose. You feel like, what is my purpose? My purpose was raising my kids, and that can feel really challenging for either parent. And although I've always worked through raising my children, I definitely felt that identity crisis. The next one is anxiety and worry. So, look, this was mixed for me. So some of them might worry about their children's safety, their social life, and their ability to cope with new responsibilities and the challenges of independence. One of the things David and I did is we really wanted our children to be independent, so much so that they wanted to leave home as soon as they'd finished being at home or they'd finished their schooling. So I think, did we worry about their safety? Look, I'm not going to betray any confidences of my children, because obviously there's stuff around their lives that it's not my place to share. But for one or two of them, there was definitely some anxiety for David and I about, particularly one of our children leaving home. Like, how safe would they be? Would they be able to manage in a new environment? And it was more about what had happened before they left home too. So yes, the challenges of independence, I don't think I ever worried about that. Our children are very independent. They know how to cook. I was very clear that when they lived at home, I was going to teach them how to look after themselves, because I remember living with people when I was a student who never learned to look after themselves, and it was so frustrating. So we always taught our children to look after ourselves. So no, the challenges of independence weren't a problem for us. New responsibilities, look, you've got to gently push them there. Yes, a little bit push them, like, you've actually got to take this responsibility on. This is your pressure, and you support them. I think their safety a little bit, perhaps a little bit. That was where the challenges were. Their social life, my kids have always had quite active social lives, so I was okay with that. So there's a bit of anxiety and worry for one of them or two of them, yeah. And I remember one of them as well moving away, and it was around the time that my father died, and there was a lot of challenge around that too. And, the whole university situation was new, and then he died, and that was really challenging too. So yes, there was a bit of worry about that. Putting them back on a plane up north when they're sobbing and don't really want to leave is pretty friggin' heart-wrenching, I'm not going to lie. Number 4, loss of control. Look, if I'm super honest, I probably did struggle with this. Not that I was ever a very controlling parent. And it's such an interesting dynamic. I was listening to a really interesting podcast yesterday from Mel Robbins, just about the relationship you have as a parent, where you do have control over your children for a while, and then you've got to let go of that control when you're having a relationship with a friend. And that was such a light bulb moment for me, because I never have thought of myself as controlling. But again, having 4 children under 5, you end up being quite a directive person through that time, because you kind of have to be to manage. So that doesn't work in an adult relationship, whether it's with a child or with a friend. So yes, it can be jarring to no longer be on top of your child's day-to-day life, and you can feel anxious and out of control. I don't know that I felt anxious and out of control, but I suppose I just missed being part of their day-to-day life. And even when Poppy was at home, our last child, there was a degree of her wanting us to help her, but she was deputy head girl at a large school, and she had a lot of responsibility. So there was things I did for her which I probably didn't do for the others just because of her job, her responsibility at school, because they have more time and capacity too. So yes, there can be a loss of control when you've been used to that. And number 4 is regret and guilt. Oh, I've so had this. Oh my goodness. Some parents reflect on their parenting choices and wonder if they did enough, or they can make mistakes which lead to regret. Holy heck. I have 100% beaten myself blue and black and come back from that. Like, I feel emotional even talking about it. Look, there's a poem by Philip Larkin called This Be the Verse, and it's about whether or not you muck up your children. Oh, and I'm sorry if it's cynical, because it is a bit cynical, but this is the poem. And one of my cousins, when I was having a really difficult time with my children, he talked me through this and said, you know, this is a poem that you probably need to look at, Steph, and understand. So anyway, it's called This Be the Verse by Philip Larkin. They F you up, your mum and dad. They may not mean to, but they do. They fill you with the faults they had and add some extra just for you. But they were effed up in their turn by fools in old-style hats and coats who half the time were soppy stern, at half at one another's throats. Man hands on misery to man. It deepens like a coastal shelf. Get out as early as you can, and don't have any kids yourself. Oh, I'm not sure that I agree with that, but anyway, that's what This Be the Verse was all about. So anyway, that was This Be the Verse, and I have to say I feel a little bit like, oh, when I read that, but it definitely was the case that look, I think my cousin gave me that. He hasn't had children, and I laughed, and I'm so glad I had children. But I think the message in that is that you can actually muck up your children a little bit. I think no parent wants to, but a lot of the time you do. And I really listened to podcasts about this and researched this so much. And the place you have in the family is so interesting. So, you know, you're a different parent to the first child to what you are to the second, third, and even fourth. And you have different pressures, you have different life journeys, different life stories. And I remember, you know, of course, most of you will know that David stopped working in 2018, because he injured himself, and he was a dentist. So our life changed very dramatically, and he took on full caregiver role for the children, and I went back to work, and that changed the dynamic. And I think for some of our children, that had an impact on them. So look, the regret and guilt has been, I've had so much therapy around it. And I suppose now I don't hold the regret in the same way. I do think that there's things I could have done better. If I had my time again, I had another child, I think I would have done things differently. But what I know is I did the best I could with what I had. And I have to live with that. And I think my children have got that now, even the ones that have struggled. Have you ever wondered how you can be a fashion stylist with access to premium digital styling products? Do you want to be trained by the best in the industry and access these products that reflect fashion styling in 2025? If you do, then Image Innovators is absolutely the choice for you. This is because they have a network of over 1,000 trained fashion stylists worldwide, and you know when you work with them, you're getting the best of the best. They have evidence-based professional training offered by highly skilled facilitators that help you reach your absolute potential. This is a great alignment with Style for Life, as I and my business have used and endorsed their products for over 10 years with so many happy clients. And I'm really excited to say I'm also offering training to fashion stylists in conjunction with Image Innovators. So if you're ready to start your fashion styling training journey, then use the code BRIGHTRED25 for 10% off all products. Number 5, financial implications. This is interesting. So they leave home and you think it's going to be cheaper. Well, it can be, but the interesting system here in New Zealand is, in New Zealand we have 2 systems for students. If they're working, of course, they should be independent, right? But there's 2 systems for students. One is a student loan system, and everyone's eligible for a student loan. A student allowance system is means tested. So if you earn over a certain amount of combined income on all sources, your children are not eligible for a student allowance. None of our children are eligible. So it's quite a low bar. So that means that you have to help them, because the amount of money they get from the student loan scheme does not even cover, it covers their rent pretty much in places like Auckland, and then the rest of it, there's hardly any left to eat. So you have to help them. So we have had to help our children. Our deal has been we helped them through while they're studying at university. Our older two now sons are both independent because they are doing their own thing, although there's always things that come up. There's always things that come up. And I think this happens until you're an established full-time job and you can manage your money. And most of the time, one of our sons is in that position. The other one's not. Obviously, being an athlete's a bit different. So there's times where we have to help him out too. So yes, there can be financial pressure, and it's a discussion we're always having, like how much help do we give these children of ours? How much do we not? And I suppose that regret and guilt comes in with me a little bit, and I think, oh, maybe I should help them do this. So I don't know, lots of stuff here, right? And the next one here, number six, is role transformation. So you've got to shift from a hands-on management role to be a supportive guide. And I remember the very challenging situation of this, where you don't call the shots on the relationship, they do. They call the shots on how when they talk to you, it's not just when you want to, because when they're little children, you direct that. So it's a supportive guide. You've got to be a supportive guide, that's it. Not hands-on manager. They don't want that when they move out. Then there's the unrecognised grief. Like, literally, it feels empty. It feels empty. And when we have a big house and there's lots of space in it, we do have 2 students at the moment, soon to be 1 again, and it feels empty. So, yeah, and people don't support you. They go, oh, lucky you. Your kids have left home, woohoo. More time for you, which is true. And that is actually the truth. It is more time for you guys, and you've got to work at that relationship. So, yeah, it's often the feeling's dismissed because it's healthy and normal, which leaves you without any sympathy or support. So, yeah, and the last one here I've got, number 8, is change social interactions. So, you used to have these friends because your children were friends with their children. Does that make sense? So your children had friends and you became friends with the parents. And that was great. You had so much in common because your children were doing the same things. The children were the same age. They were hanging out together, and you ended up hanging out with them and doing things with them. And the parents are great. But if you don't foster that relationship outside of the children, and if there's not enough commonality, they don't survive, right? So you've got to find common ground in those friendships outside of your children. I mean, I've got some friends I see like once a month or so, maybe a bit less, and they all have 4 children. We call ourselves the mums of 4. And that's actually really good support because we all have similar challenges, all in different situations in our lives, in different demographics, but it's just the same challenges, like regardless. So it's really great to connect with them. And then, out of all of my children's friends, probably 1 or 2 parents have stayed in our friend circle. So, you've got to have a strong common thread that you build and foster outside of the children. Now, what are the positives of empty nest syndrome? So again, I slip in and out of being really excited about them being gone, and then I'm thinking, oh, they're coming home, holy heck, which is actually amazing. Aside from the fact that when my boys come home, there's a lot more food consumed, a lot more mess around, which is actually cool. So I would have them home in any day. David might feel differently, but I would have them home any day. I love them being around, but I understand that it's really good for them and it makes them more resilient to be out in the world, managing their money, managing their food, managing their lives, managing their emotional regulation without having us always there to catch them, especially as they get to the ages they are. So again, I'd like them here, but I understand that it's good for them. So what can you do? What's positive? First of all, rediscover and pursue personal interests. With more free time, you can focus on hobbies. Hobbies, I haven't quite got there yet. Travel, absolutely. We have definitely taken that one on. Travel, just the 2 of us, although it always seems to be a tag along. With our children, someone tags along. Create pursuits, like what do you want to do to be more creative? Or just learning a new skill. Like, have you got the capacity? Like, what can you put some more personal interests in there? And I think when David got injured, he took some time to recover. He took up mountain biking as well. Now, the number 2, which is what I've done, is focused on career. So look at professional goals. So can you start a new business? Obviously, I've got the new business of training fashion stylists, which is really exciting. And that's taken a bit of time to think about. I've moved into different areas. I now don't have to finish work at 3 o'clock. I don't even have to finish at 3:30. Like, I don't have to finish till 6. And I can start at 6 if I want to. It's not healthy to behave like that. Start at 6 and finish at 6. That's quite a long day. But I do have the opportunity to do that, and I feel really grateful. And I'm also a lot more available. And also it's very appealing to people who hire me because I can go anywhere. I'm not tied to being always in Christchurch. So I can travel because my children are tying me here and I have commitments here, but I can shuffle those around to travel. So yeah, there's an opportunity to focus on your professional goals. I love that. Greater self-care. Now, I really see this. This is what I want you to really hear. If you have got close to empty nest or you're empty nest, it's now time to focus on your health, fitness, and mental well-being. A lot of my accountability coaching clients come to this place, right? So there's a lot more time to focus on health, fitness, and mental well-being. So that greater self-care piece is huge, especially if you've neglected yourself over that time of raising kids. Sense of accomplishment. I've definitely had this. Parents can feel pride and joy in seeing their kids become successful, independent adults. 100%. That is a very cool moment. You feel like your job has been done. You know, they don't call you as much because they have less need because they are managing themselves better. And you do talk to them. It's awesome. So seeing them become successful, independent adults is actually very cool. Number 5, deeper marital satisfaction. Yes, and yes, that does definitely happen. You can reduce focus on active parenting means that you can build a stronger connection with your partner, you've got more time for intimacy, and you can work on being more supportive of each other. And that's definitely something we're exploring now too. How can we be more supportive of each other? How can we actually work on the things that we haven't given time to work on in the past? Like, how can we focus and do that? Because the old habits can stick around if you don't actually consciously step into that. This one, a new parent-child dynamic. It can evolve from a day-to-day management to a more supportive, mature friendship based on mutual respect and shared experiences, which is definitely what we experience. So we have lots, we create the shared experiences with our children, our tamariki. They don't live here. So it's really important that we generate them and make sure that they actually happen. So, you know, the relationship can evolve and you've got to actually work on that too. And we both want to be close to our children. We both love their company. We like their time. We like being in their realm and in their world. We like knowing what's going on, and we like having that mutual respect. So they become adults, as you will have with your parents. And it's important as a parent that you step into this dynamic too, because without stepping into this dynamic, it can feel really challenging for the child. They can feel like they're being parented when they're an adult. So it's been really challenging for us and confronting at times to really step into this nice, mature, supportive friendship based on mutual respect and shared experiences, rather than just being in that parent-child dynamic, which can stay with you. It's very ingrained when you have done it for a large portion of your life. When I think of the portion of my life I've done that, it's large. And to a degree, I was still doing it a little bit until Poppy left home. So, yeah, yes, interesting. And then stronger social connections. You have time to invest in existing friendships and make new ones by getting more involved in activities where there could be other people. So you can actually foster stronger social connections. You've got more time and energy to do that. So for me, in this life phase, in this season of my life, I've decided to focus on professional development, and I have to work on the social connections too, because I do love people. So it's making and scheduling the time for that. That's what I have to do, because I find that other people in our circumstances are all also, you know, looking at what they're doing, they're stepping out, they're busy, they're managing their lives in a fun way too. So you've got to really foster and and really promote those social connections as well. So, and also the last one, number 8, is you have more time for your family outside of your children. So I know that a lot of us at this stage of life have parents that are aging, so it's a really great season to spend time with them, to love them, to have our arms around them, to be with them, to support them, to hold them when they need our help. Some of them won't. They'll still be fiercely independent and very good health, but if they're not, we have more capacity to do that. So it's our season to step into that. So, I find the juggle between all of these things really challenging. So I find it hard to keep all of the friendships and social connections and then work going, and also managing that whole relationship with the children, and then managing the relationship with my mother. So I think, just keep in mind that there's lots of positives here, but also remember that you have to work at it. Let's go through the challenges again, quickly recap, and then through the positives. So challenges are identity crisis, anxiety and worry about your kids, loss of control, regret and guilt about your parenting, financial implications of supporting a child outside of the home, role transformation from hands-on to supportive guide, unrecognised grief, which is valid, and change social interactions. Positives are you have more time for your own interests and personal pursuits. You can focus on your career. You can look after yourself more, greater self-care. You have a sense of accomplishment in your children's success. You can have deeper marital or partner satisfaction. There's a new parent-child dynamic, which is exciting. You can make stronger social connections, and you have more time for your aging parents. So I hope that has been helpful. Thank you so much for listening. I would love some suggestions. I'm going to do some pre-records ahead of the holiday season, so please flick through what you would like me to talk about. And I appreciate you listening so much. Please do not forget to follow me on all socials. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and TikTok. So feel free to follow me on all socials, and I appreciate so much that you are following this podcast. It is growing. I also very much appreciate our sponsor, Image Innovators. So don't forget to check out the link in show notes. Thank you so much, Claire. Ki kaha, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Style for Life podcast. Don't forget, you deserve to feel fabulous at every age, every stage, and at every size. If you're loving the show, hit subscribe and leave a review. It helps more amazing people like you find their way back to life through style. Thanks again. Until next time.